Hello, everyone, and welcome back. As always, I'm your girl, Candy Washington. So, before we dive into today's episode, which is Mauricio Umansky and Kyle Richards, are they planning a comeback as a couple? Are they planning on reconciling by the end of season 14 of The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills? I don't know. Or do they just want that paycheck? Because as we know, buying Beverly Hills on Netflix has been canceled. So, according to the streets, Mauricio is upping his game on The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. So, before we dive in, go ahead and like, subscribe, and share. So let's see. This is according to Reality T. It says Kyle Richards' unexpected split from Mauricio Umansky took the Bravo verse by storm. The news shook the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills fans to their core. Their marriage was the most stable across the Housewives franchise, or so it seemed. The news unexpectedly broke shortly after The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills season 13 finished filming. Once headlines hit the presses, Bravo picked their cameras back up to catch the aftermath. Given everything on the couple's plate, fans expected season 13 to shed some light into their marital issues. It didn't help that Bravo seemed to tease the insight fans begged for. But once season 13 rolled around, viewers still felt in the dark. Of course, things are different now. Kyle and Mo don't even live together even more, so what will season 14 look like? Now, again, people thought that maybe this was a publicity stunt or a storyline for the show. I never thought that. I thought that Kyle was going through it. I thought that she was still mourning the loss of her friend who unfortunately is no longer with her, no longer with us by her own hand. And I felt like Kyle was going through a crisis, and Mauricio just wasn't there for her. He was out there dipping it and doing it. He was letting Dorit flirt with him. He was, allegedly there's been stories of infidelity for decades in their marriage. He was working on opening up 100 agencies across the country and across the world for whatever reason. He was working on his Netflix show. He was doing everything other than being a present husband to Kyle, and she lost her mind and went through a crisis. Now, do I think Kyle really wants to get divorced from Mauricio? No, I think she was going through it. But now that they've separated and he's gotten a taste of freedom, does he want her back? Is what I think the question will be. Let's keep going. In a recent interview with Us Weekly, Kyle confirmed that Mauricio would appear on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills season 14. Mo does shoot with me this season quite a bit, she said, and it was brand new as he had just actually moved out right before we started shooting. And then my daughter did also, so I was very emotional during that time. She continued, but you'll see what we're going through in a lot of conversations this season on camera. Where have we heard that one before? But granted, season 14 does theoretically promise an unseen dynamic between Kyle and Mauricio. Perhaps Kyle can show the vulnerability that fans expected in season 13. I agree with this. I think in season 13, Kyle still had cover, thinking it's the Kyle show, acting as, a de facto producer, being able to point the finger, stir the pot in everybody else's business while playing coy about what's happening in her own house. However, I think the tide has turned. I think that the cast members, I think that the producers of the show, and definitely the fans in the audience are demanding a new level of transparency and authenticity and honesty from Kyle. She can't go around thinking she's the sheriff without showing what's, behind what's in her own closet. And I think that even she will be at a breaking point. Well, she won't be able to, fake it anymore or be phony about it anymore because people get to a point where they just don't care. When everyone's coming at you and you have all the pressure and you need to deliver, it's going to be sink or swim time, if you know what I mean. So we'll see what happens with Kyle. But I do think that season 14, we're going to get a lot more truth, a lot more of quote reality, even though these reality shows are highly scripted, highly produced, highly narrated. I think we're going to get more of that. And that is what I am excited to see. Not excited in the sense of I want to see a family go through a divorce or anything like that. I don't mean it that way. By excited to see, I mean like That's why people tune in to get a glimpse of people's real lives, the humanity of their lives. That way we can empathize with Kyle. We can show her more compassion. But it's hard to be compassionate towards someone who keeps hiding things and being fake, but yet holding other people to this standard of own it and tell the truth, and we have to be honest. So hopefully this will humanize Kyle in a way that she really hasn't been humanized before, because she really hasn't been my favorite. But at the same time, just because she's not my favorite, I can still show another human being, another woman who is clearly suffering, some grace and some compassion. But that's only if she opens up first. Okay. There you go. Now, Kyle comments come after Teddy Mellencamp speculated about a potential marital reconciliation. So this is what I was talking about at the top of the video. Are we going to see Kyle and Mauricio get back together? I think eventually, yes. Perhaps not this season, perhaps not by the end of it, but I don't think, my prediction is I don't think Kyle and Mauricio will actually get divorced. It might take some time for them to get back together, but I just don't think they're going to get divorced. Obviously, I could be wrong, but that's just my gut feeling. And time will tell. I'm not saying it's going to happen tomorrow, but I don't know. I just think they're going to stay together. Eventually find their way back to each other. Okay. But the Beverly Hills OG Kyle quickly shut that speculation down. Right now, we're just going to leave it as it is, she said. Right, as it is. You guys living separately, you guys doing the most for the show and storyline and all that, and then also in your relationship, but also not actually filing for divorce. Kyle hasn't filed, Mauricio hasn't filed. So that's leaving the door open for a reconciliation, which I think will happen at some point down the line. Okay. During season 13, Kyle and Mauricio were the talk of the town. Can they keep up that momentum in season 14? Only time will tell. I think so. I also think it's going to be Kyle versus Dorit in season 14. I think that it's going to be them trying to figure out, did Mauricio and Dorit actually have an affair? I don't think Mauricio and Dorit actually had sex. I think that Dorit was highly sexually and probably emotionally attracted to Mauricio. I think she wanted it. I think she was willing to risk it all for him. But I don't think that that line was actually ever crossed in a physical way. Emotionally, yes. Flirting, yes. I think Dorit wanted it. I think Mauricio was kind of oblivious, just doing him. That's kind of where I land on that. So if I was Kyle, I would never mess with Dorit again. She could never be my friend. And I understand why PK is pissed. That's his best friend, his, business partner. And then the whole world is speculating about whether or not, your spouse is having an affair with your friend. So we'll see how that all unfolds on season 14. Let me know, will you be watching? What did you think about the trailer? And do you think Kyle and Mauricio will eventually get back together? Or do you think, nope, it's a wrap and they will eventually actually file for divorce? So as always, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Bye.